Hello everyone. In the previous video we are doing the CPU scheduling algorithms and we have discussed one CPU scheduling algorithm that was first come first serve scheduling. We have also discussed one example for the same and prepared a Gantt chart, and then the average waiting time we have calculated. We have calculated that next CPU scheduling algorithm is shortest job first scheduling, SJF. As the name suggests, shortest job first scheduling focuses on the processes which have shortest CPU burst time. If a process has minimum CPU burst time as compared to the processes, or you can say other processes in the ready queue that are ready to be executed, only wants a CPU to be allocated, between these processes the process with minimum CPU burst time will be selected and allocated to the CPU for further execution. And whenever the CPU is available, it will be assigned to the process that has the smallest next CPU burst. If the next CPU bursts of two processes are same, then first come first serve scheduling algorithm is used to break that tie. Let's take an example to discuss the shortest job first scheduling. Suppose we have four processes in the ready queue. They are ready to be executed, only wants the allotment of the CPU. That's why we are doing or discussing the CPU scheduling algorithm, that is the main work of the short term scheduler. CPU burst time is calculated for each process based on some calculations or predictions. Suppose process P1 in the ready queue has a CPU burst time or demands a CPU burst time of 6 milliseconds. Process P2 demands a CPU burst time of 8 milliseconds in total, and P3 same wise has 7, and P4 demands a CPU burst time of 3 milliseconds. And we are implementing shortest job first scheduling. It means the process in the ready queue that has the minimum CPU burst time will be allocated the CPU firstly. Here is the Gantt chart for the shortest job first scheduling algorithm. The smallest CPU burst time is of P4 process, that is 3. So CPU will be allocated firstly to the process P4 for the total time of 3 millisecond, because P4 wants only 3 millisecond of CPU burst time. After that the P4 itself releases the CPU because it has completed its execution. Now this CPU scheduling algorithm again runs here after 3 millisecond, that is shortest job first. We have three processes remaining now, P1, P2 and P3. Here these are the CPU burst time for the three, and now P1 is the smallest of these three. So P1 is selected for a total CPU burst time of 6 millisecond, because P1 wants total 6 millisecond CPU burst time. After that P1 itself, I am stressing on itself, releases its all resources or CPU for further allotment. Now we have only two processes remaining, P2 and P3, 8 and 7 respective their CPU burst time. It's obvious that 7 is the smaller than the P2, so P3 will be allocated for CPU allotment for 7 milliseconds. After the 7 milliseconds, P3 itself releases the CPU, and now only one process in the ready queue remains. No further processes are coming. So P2 requires 8 millisecond of total CPU burst time. CPU will be allocated to this particular process for total of 8 milliseconds. This is how the shortest job first scheduling algorithm works. I must tell you that this shortest job first scheduling is of non-preemptive type of scheduling, because all the processes P4, P1, P3 and P2 itself releases the resources only after they have completed the total CPU burst time. In between they are not giving away their resources Here the resource is CPU, and we are not preempted or not taken away the resource of that particular process, so it is of non-preemptive type of scheduling. Likewise, first come first serve scheduling. Let's calculate the average waiting time for the same. That is total number of waiting time divided by the total number of processes, that is 4. Total number of processes are 4. Waiting time for individual is, firstly we will see for process P1, P1 has to wait for 3 milliseconds because it has to wait till the execution of P4 is completed, that is of 3 milliseconds. So waiting time of P1 is 3 plus P2 waiting time. P2 has to wait till the execution of P4, P1 and P3 is completed, that is total of 16 milliseconds here. Next is P3 waiting time. P3 has to wait till the execution of P1 and P4 is completed, that is 9 milliseconds. And lastly the P4 has to wait for nothing. It is the first process that is allocated the CPU because it has the shortest job first. So 0 is the waiting time for P4, that is divided by 4. The average waiting time for this particular example is 7. Now the shortest job first scheduling, this algorithm is of non-preemptive type. The shortest job first scheduling can also be designed as a preemptive type, where we can preempt the resources of the processes in between of execution. Let's see this. I have already told you that first come first serve scheduling was non-preemptive. This was also non-preemptive. It can be designed as preemptive. That is known as shortest remaining time first scheduling, the preemptive version of shortest job first. That is, let's take an example. One more factor is now attached in our example, that is arrival time. It represents the arrival of these processes. Firstly, process P1 comes at time 0. As the time goes to 1 milliseconds, you can say second process comes into the ready queue. When the time goes to 2 milliseconds of the total time, process P3 comes into the ready queue. After the 3 millisecond of total time, again one process is added into the ready queue, that is P4, and their respective CPU burst times are calculated based on some predictions by the operating system. This is the preemptive type of shortest job first scheduling, and here it is the Gantt chart for the same. As in the example we are showing that at time 0, firstly there is only one process in the ready queue, so we need not to run any algorithm. Only one process is available. CPU has to be allocated to this process in respective of its burst time. So this CPU is allocated to the process P1. After the 1 millisecond of the time, another process comes into the system or the ready queue, that is P2. After, as the 1 millisecond time comes, second process comes. If we have two processes, we have to run the algorithm again, that is shortest remaining time first scheduling. It means the shortest time remaining first scheduling is what? Between these two processes, the shortest CPU burst time is of P2, that is 4 milliseconds. The CPU burst time is of 4 milliseconds. We have to preempt the resources or CPU from P1, and we have to allot the CPU to the P2 because P2 has smaller CPU burst time than the P1. So P2 has to allocate the resources, or you can say the CPU. As the timer goes to 2 millisecond total time, another process comes into the ready queue, that is P3. Again the CPU scheduling algorithm runs. Between these three processes, again the P2 has the smallest CPU burst time, so it will continue its working with the CPU. After a total 3 milliseconds, another process comes into the system, that is P4. Between these four processes, again the algorithm runs, and again P2 seems to be the smallest CPU burst time, so P2 will complete its execution because it has the smallest CPU burst time. No more further processes are coming on the arrival time of 4, 5, 6. In this example we have only 4 processes and P2 has completed its work. Now we have 3 processes left, P1, P3 and P4, and P1 has completed for 1 millisecond its execution, and the current state is stored into the PCB of P1. So total CPU burst time requirement of P1 was 8 and it has completed for 1 millisecond, so total burst time remaining is 7 for this particular process P1. So we have to compare the CPU burst time 7, 9 and 5. Between these, the shortage is P4, so P4 will be allocated the CPU for the next execution. No further processes are coming, so P4 will complete its execution till total requirement, that is 5 milliseconds. Now we have only 2 processes remaining, that is P3 and P1. P1 total requirement is 7 because total was 8 and 1 millisecond it has completed its work, so total now requirement of P1 is only 7 milliseconds and P3 is of 9 milliseconds. Between 7 and 9, 7 is smaller, so P1 will be allocated the CPU till total execution because no further processes are coming. Then lately the last only one process remain, that is P3, for 9 millisecond it will be allocated to the CPU. Now we have to calculate the average waiting time for the same, that is the individual waiting time of all the processes divided by total number of processes, that is 4. Individual waiting time, please see carefully, that is for process P1 the waiting time for P1 is 10 minus 1. The process P1 has to wait till the execution of P2 and P4, that is total 10, but in this 10, 1 millisecond is itself execution of P1, so we have to minus this total 10 millisecond waiting time minus 1, it becomes 10 minus 1. Next P2, the waiting time of P2 is 1, but the arrival time of P1 is also 1, so when the P2 comes, the CPU is allocated directly to the P2 because the resources are preempted from the P1, so P2 has to wait for nothing, so this 1 minus arrival time 1 is the waiting time of P2. Next is P3, P3 has to wait for 17 milliseconds, but P3 itself come after 2 millisecond of total time, so 17 minus 2 millisecond is the waiting time of P3. Lastly the P4, P4 has to wait for 5 milliseconds, but P4 comes into the system only after the 3 millisecond of total time, so 5 minus 3 is the waiting time of P4, that is divided by 4, it comes 6.5 millisecond is the average waiting time of this particular system. I will again tell you why this is 10 minus 1, because students generally confuse in this, because the waiting time of P1 was 10 milliseconds. In this 10 milliseconds the execution of P1 was 1 millisecond, so it has to not to wait for this total 10. In between this 10, 1 millisecond is itself execution, so we have to minus this 1 milliseconds of execution of this P1 from the waiting time of 10. 10 minus 1 is the waiting time of P1, that is 9. Thank you.